you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. You know the song, right? When it comes to real estate investing, I'm telling you, there are times that you just have to walk away from the deal. And the question is, when do you walk away? Well, guess what? For me, I'm a spiritual individual, so I definitely have to feel good about it in my spirit. I have to have this level of peace that, for me, God always gives me. If I'm unsettled, that's definitely a red flag for me. And again, this is kind of like outside of the numbers and the analytics and the mechanics of the deal. This is just something internal. Different real estate investors, depending on who they are and where they are in their spiritual lives, have a different way of explaining it. But for me, if my spirit ain't right, if I'm thrown off and I'm troubled and I'm vexed and I'm unsettled and I'm waking up in the middle of the night within the first few days of trying to put the deal together and I'm just feeling like something ain't right, that's going to be a red flag for me. So I'm already be at no, and it's going to have to be a whole lot to walk me to the yeah. Okay, so that's first for me, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional part. Now, I'm not going to lean too heavy on the mental and the emotional, especially the emotional, because a lot of times, depending on your experience in real estate investing and depending on your thirst and your ambition just to get a deal, your emotions will lead you down the wrong path. So when I say the spiritual side, I'm not talking about, let me just put this up here, okay? When I say the spiritual side, I'm talking about that gut check. I'm talking about it's just something in my sha-na-na that just ain't feeling right. And I'm antsy, I'm unsettled. Again, that's different than, okay, the mental. The mental plays into the spiritual because now your mind start racing and you feel like you're compromising and you can't quite make sense of how this deal is going to work. That may mean at times that you're reaching, that you're trying to push this deal somewhere that you shouldn't push it. And it's easy to do because when you start doing the numbers and pushing that calculator and you do it over and over and over again, you're trying to make sense of something that just doesn't make dollars, right? You ever heard the saying, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense? You're trying to make sense of something that don't make dollars. And so I'm definitely going to check this. I'm going to weigh that. And then the emotional side, I'm going to check it, but I'm not going to rely on it because your emotions will lie to you. Your mind can be telling you, ain't nothing there, dog. Like, it's a wrap. It don't make sense because it ain't going to make no dollars. Your spirit can be telling you, this is not it. This is trouble. It's too many things you just don't see. And then your emotions is like, oh my God, but I'm so close. I got the contract. And in 10 days, I can really own a piece of property and blah, 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 blah. But you don't go off of your emotions, especially if you're not harnessed, extremely experienced, and if you have not been through enough ups and downs. See, I'm fortunate enough as a real estate investor, as an end buyer, to have had a long time with my wife and I. She's a real estate agent working as a team with other real estate investors. See, we've seen real estate investors lose millions of dollars because they didn't do this stuff. And it ain't just spiritual, mental, emotional, of course, financial. Okay? Financial. I mean, if the money ain't there, the money ain't there. Like, I just walked away from a deal. Like, literally within the last 24 hours of making this video, I walked away from a deal. And my team and I, we went to go preview the property. We did a walkthrough. We got the financial information. We did the underwriting and analyzing and strategizing and all the izing that we could do. And in my spirit, I started feeling like, ooh, this is like the first day or so. I'm like, man, what is that? And then in my mind, once I start doing the numbers, I'm like, it don't make sense. I just can't see. And then like within a day or so, I accepted the mental part. I was like telling my team and telling the seller, the money ain't there. It just don't make sense. But my emotions was like, but I definitely want to help you. And then once we scheduled a in-person visit, on my way there, my spirit was like, bro, like, it don't look. And I'm not talking about like the physical property. I'm not talking about the physical. It's just deep down inside. It's like, This is where, and I'm gonna just use this word to simplify it. This is where the mechanics of the deal, like all the moving pieces of the deal, because financially I was like, I don't, it's just not there. And mentally I couldn't make sense of it. But by the second or third day, I was like spiritually being pulled, because my emotions was like, man, you gotta help this person. You gotta do something. But once I went there physically and then started getting more information, because now we have real data in front of us. We're looking at real statements. We're looking at real numbers. I got my attorney involved like within 3 days of this situation. All of a sudden, the mechanical parts of this deal, once we started unpacking each part of it, I'm like, ooh, that's iffy. That might come back to bite. And then all of these things just started confirming what I felt in my spirit. And then once I talked to my wife and my team and my attorney, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and say no, just to get it out my system. And the moment I said no, I felt that peace. My wife was like, yeah. My team was like, my attorney and the staff there was like, yeah, you probably right. It was a no. You have to know when to walk away. Now, again, I could get tied up in it. Oh my God, in a couple of days, I own a piece of property. There's too many properties out here. There's too much abundance and surplus. And especially the type of real estate investing that we do in the niche areas that we work a lot in, there are too many people who need our strategies, our solutions, our services to help them get to the next chapter of their lives. So I'm just saying to you, you're in the game, you just got to know when to walk away. And don't let the things that you have reservations in trick you or manipulate you or finesse you into making a decision that you're going to regret. So for me, definitely spiritual. And again, sometimes you're not going to be able to pinpoint it because it's a spiritual dynamic. But as you start fleshing through mentally, you're doing the numbers, you're weighing your emotions. Am I just overexcited? Am I just zealous? Am I just ambitious? Is this just me being thirsty, wanting a deal? Because we want deals. We thirsty. I know I'm thirsty. I wake up every day. That's why I'm here in the office now. I had to run in the studio to do some videos, but I'm thirsty. I'm driving for dollars. I'm digging, trying to find something. I want to make something happen because I want to do deals. Then I look at the mechanics, the legal side, all the things that have to be put together, how everything has to fit. And I'm like, wow, it almost has to be a perfect fit for everything to check off. And then even if it does, or when it does, I still don't see the money because it just doesn't make sense. So my encouragement to you is to check those boxes. And again, if you don't have the same boxes I do, figure out what your boxes is, but know when to walk away. And when you see it and it's before you, sometimes you can push it to a seasoned investor. In my case, I have an amazing team around me. I have legal experts, people that I pay and have extraordinary relationships with, that I can run things by them and say, what am I not seeing? And the moment they start pinpointing, there are ways that we can get through it. However, you got to make sure your boxes are checked, because if you're always looking for a way to make it work, you're going to find a way to make it work. But it needs to be when you know you've checked those boxes and you have a buffer in the event everything goes left. You don't want to always try to figure out a way to make it work with paperwork, with the mechanics, with the finances, and you're emotionally, you're like all tied into it, and mentally you're like, you know what, I can make sense of that. and spiritually you're still unsettled. It's just something you don't quite know. And then like once it's all over and you got plenty of money on the line, you feeling like, oh my God, you don't want that feeling. So I encourage you to do your due diligence, figure out what your criteria is, what things you need to be clear on to determine if you need to hold, fold, or walk away.